everyone, and welcome to All Things Grace Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Majors, and I am so very excited about this particular interview today, just because of the things that we're talking about. And I know this is going to be a show where we move in the spirit of the conversation a lot. So just hold on. It's going to be amazing. Shawn Harper is here with us today. So really interesting story about Shawn, right? So one of the top motivational speakers in our country today, journey from kind of struggles in Columbus, Ohio, faced learning disabilities, poverty, speech challenges, to graduating college, winning national awards, and playing 7 years in the NFL. This is nothing short of inspiring. CEO of American Services and Protection. We'd love to hear more about that. And Shawn just captivates the audience. It brings wit and humor, but most of all, these powerful messages about overcoming obstacles and choosing life no matter what it throws at you. And also, I think there's a saying, and Shawn, maybe you can help me if I don't get it right, but basically like looking through life as like the setbacks or a setup for a comeback, that whole kind of thing. But I am super excited. Shawn, thank you so much for being here.
You know what? Thank you for having me. I already know that this is going to be an absolute blessing of a podcast. And thank you for setting aside space in your life to invest and plant trees, knowing that people will never sit under your shades and eat the fruit of. So thank you for that. That's a sacrifice. And thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm like, where do I start? Lots of different places I could start, but why don't we go back to, so let's start at a place in time. Okay. So here you are with your friend and the phone rings, 30-second conversation with the Rams, like, come on, let's go. And you went out to Red Lobster and,
How did you know all that? How did you know that?
Listen, I do my research.
I see that. I know. That's exactly. You know what? That's exactly what happened. The phone call rang. They said it was just me and my friend. Because people think you're playing in the NFL. You're in the limelight. I am also a introvert, right? And it's just me and my friend, and we're just sitting there and we're waiting on the rounds to tick by. And then with the third pick in the fourth round, and 30 seconds or a minute prior, the phone's like, "Hey, this is the Rams. Are you ready?" I said, "Yes, I'm ready." Said, "This is Harper." And said, "Go, let's go." Hung the phone up, and about a minute later, they made the actual announcement. I looked at my friend and we jumped in the car to celebrate. We went to Red Lobster, and that was a big thing for me. I'm college, back in the day, college.
That was high end.
That was high end back then. That's at Red Lobster. Like, no, shrimp scampi, please.
Right. This was on me. Okay, yeah. I know that's right. So that's a picture in time, but there was a whole story leading up to that day. So can you talk about kind of the things that led up to that phone call, and just a little bit about your background and overcoming some of these challenges?
Yeah, that the actual story is what sets up that moment, because that moment happens hundreds of times every year. But to set up the fact leading up to that with an individual that was, documented with 4 to 5 learning disabilities, having to repeat the first grade, kicked out of a couple schools for disciplinary issues, almost 3 schools, leaving high school with a 1.62 accumulative GPA, not on my ACT, voted most likely to fail. I was at the bottom of the barrel, stuttered my entire life. I could not complete a sentence till college. And I get a phone call from a junior college, a 2-year school in Mason City, Iowa. And they're like, "Come to Mason City, Iowa to play football." And I literally hung up on the coach. I said, "I'm not going," right? Because I became a victim of the programming.
That's right.
I became a victim of, this is who you are, this is who you are, this is who you are, this is how far you can go, this is where you should go. And I allowed their opinions to become my reality. And from there, I go up to that junior college, nothing else to do. I sat the bench the entire season, not one play, maybe one play the entire season. I would hold the bag for all the starters and, give them water. And it just ready to just give up. And in fact, I called my mom. I said, "Mom, I quit. Mom, I quit." And I'm thinking, Mom, the nurturer, the nurturer. And she's like, come home, baby. I'm just waiting, like, come on
Right.
home, baby. There was a pause on the phone. There was a pause on the phone. And she's like, no, you can't come home. And I was angry, like, what do you mean I can't come home? Like, I'm giving your room away, this and this and that. He was
Right.
like, it was six of us in the house. He's like, no, you cannot come home. And God bless her
Yeah.
for pushing me through the fire, you know, pushing
Mhm.
me through adversity. The thing about adversity is that adversity can break you, but it also can make you a record breaker, you know.
That's
And being able to push through that adversity, push through that fire, to sit in the pain. And I went back, headed back for the second year. I went back early, and I had a conversation, and this conversation changed my life. The conversation is that, or was, you're right. I can't be successful. I don't have what it takes to be successful. I said, but I can win. And the moment I said I can win, I begin to see obstacles as opportunities. I begin to look at things I begin to like MacGyver life, are you old schoolers? I begin to see things differently. And I begin to approach things totally different. So I'll give you an example. I pulled out a sheet of paper and I wrote 200 colleges. Well, I wrote one letter and I Xeroxed it back then 200 times.
Xeroxed.
And I borrowed some money and I put a stamp on every single one of them, and I mailed it to every single school in the country, every major college in the country. Here I am. I created the capacity for that because winners think differently. I took 22 hours in one semester. Winners think differently. And I begin to process and to separate myself. Winners always separate themselves.
Mhm.
And the phone began to ring, and I began to perform and overperform. And the next thing you know, I have a full scholarship to Indiana University, draft day in the NFL. I'm third pick in the fourth round. And I retired. And once I retired, I took the same methodologies and strategies and concepts of winning, and I applied it to my life. I actually applied it to my marriage. I applied it to business. And if
Mhm.
life is a game, you play to win. And if you don't know it's a game, guarantee you will be played by the game.
Yes, yes. There's this saying that we always play the game. We always win the game we're playing.
Mm,
So whether you're playing a game of I'm surviving, then that's the game you're
mhm.
with, and you are surviving, barely so. But I love that idea of figuring out what your game is to play and playing that, because I mean, obviously the game will be different, or maybe you have like some surefire. This game works for everybody across the board if you do these things.
Yeah. So the number one competitor is not an external force. The number one competitor is you. Winning to me is the fullest expression of who you are mentally, spiritually, socially, yes, financially, and legacy. That is what winning is that you push yourself past yourself. You push yourself into the 212 and you make yourself uncomfortable. We love to be comfortable in our culture. But if you're not careful, your comfort zone will become your casket. And so you have to always push yourself past yourself. And if you get to the end and you see a moment of disappointment, as long as the inside game is strong, you did what you did your very best. And
You
that's
ran
how
your
I
way.
look at it.
That's right. So how did the NFL, so how did it change you? Did the NFL help kind of unearth some of this way of being, this way of thinking? Was it hard? What were some of the surprises about being in the NFL that you didn't plan for or think about? What was that
So
experience?
it actually started in junior college that day.
Mm,
When I said I can win. So let me if I could unpack that for a second, okay?
please. Yeah.
All actions stem from thoughts. All thoughts come from your belief system, and that's where about 90% of all success and motivational gurus stop. You can believe to achieve, but there's one step deeper. There's one step deeper, brought to light in the 50s by a guy named Maxwell Maltz. He wrote a book called Psycho-Cybernetics, and he introduced to the psychology world a term or a phrase called your self concept. And underneath the belief, there's your self concept. Who are you? Unfortunately, and I'm gonna get into some trouble here, but it's okay. Is that is that a lot is sometimes our self-concept is attacked and it's damaged before the age of 5 or 6. And now it's nestled in there. And then that influences all of your beliefs and your thoughts and your actions. Who are you, victim or victor? And so you have to go in and you have to minister. You have to speak to that subconscious. You have to speak to the self concept. And what I was able to do was that I was able to find a word or to
Mm.
find something to attach my identity to. And my identity was that I am a winner.
Mm.
Period. That's who I am. I'm a winner, and I was able to actually uh, 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 pull that. Well, one day I was in biology class, and I learned that there's 80 to 90 million sperm cells that fertilize the egg. Only one makes it, right? And I said that was the winner. So
Right.
guess what? I am the winner. And so
Already.
now,
Yeah.
what happens, and I don't want to get too metaphysical, but what happens is that it changes my energy. It changes my vibration from the heart. The heart's energy and the electromagnetic energy is 5,000 times stronger than the cranium, than the brain. So it's
Wow.
like oozing from me. I am a winner. Now I begin to attract and I begin to refract life. You never have what you want or maintain what you want. You can only maintain who you are.
Mm. That is wow. So now, thanks a lot, Shawn. Now I got 80 other questions that out of that. So I'll try to figure this all out as you're going.
Okay.
I didn't
It's okay.
anticipate
Let's go.
the answer. Um, I want to pivot for a second, then I'll come back to that. You talked about, and I love this. You talked about the thing about motivational speakers is that this is what you let me explain hear what I thought you said is that a lot of motivational speakers mostly teach you how to get to, and they don't teach you how to get through. And so you're kind of doing things a little differently and decided I'm going to focus on getting through, because they always focus on the to and not the through. So can you talk a little bit about how that became your approach to this? Was it something you thought of, or was it something that is just naturally what you feel is the most important thing to impart to people? Like, how did you
Yeah.
talk me through that?
So let me start really macro and come down on this one, okay? Because I believe that this is probably, I mean, I don't know if anything else is going to get more important than this, than what we're talking about right here. The psychology, or the psychology field has a term called locus of control. Okay.
Mhm.
And so locus of control is external locus of control or internal locus of control. Okay. External locus of control says if I'm going to need other people to help me. I'm going to need a help. I'm going to need a handout. Internal locus of control, a strong internal locus of control says if it's going to be, it's up to me.
Mhm.
Okay. So what so I was able to move from I was able to move from a position of having other people's encouragement and validation to actually having it internally myself, to impregnate my heart with my goals, and
Mhm.
to have it sitting there with my dream. This is what I am, and this is where I'm going. I am. Okay, it's a very powerful phrase. I am a winner. That's a strong internal presence and internal locus of control. I am a winner. Now, what happens is that I'm not only attracted to something, something is attracted to me. There's another term that I would like to throw out called the RAS, or the reticular activation system. And what that is that, so if I were to say to you, um, Mercedes Benz, right? And I just kept saying Mercedes Benz, Mercedes, and it's in your heart now, right? So
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, when you start driving down the street, you start seeing all these Mercedes Benzes everywhere. You're like, I see all these Mercedes, and they've always been there, but
Right.
but subconsciously you filter it out. So now take that example and take what I said about the external locus of control. Now let's say if you have failure in your being, if you have failure in your heart, then what happens is that you filter out success. You
Mm,
filter out winning opportunities. You filter out greatness, and all you see, all you are attracted to, and all you attract is failure.
mm,
You
mhm.
have to change. So now you have to have, for the lack of a better term, you have to have heart surgery, and you have to change what is inside your heart. You ever hear people like, I don't know why I just keep finding the same type of guy or the same kind of girl? It's in your heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in your
There's
heart.
that saying is, and I think you said some version of this, but like you don't attract what you, yeah, you said that. You don't attract
Yeah.
what you want, you attract who you are. And
Yes.
and kind of said another way, you attract what you believe,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so given that theory, what are your thoughts about people who, there's this thing that my sister is doing now, and she is blowing up in life because she's doing these robotic affirmations. And she likes robotic affirmations because they're simple. You focus on a thing and you just repeat the same thing. And you
Yes.
don't have to believe it. And so, but it is all those pieces that you were talking about, the reticular activation system and all these things that activate when you start to repeat a process in your mind.
Your subconscious controls over 80% of your daily activities in life.
Jesus, right. So we're on autopilot. We're
Right.
just so
Right.
so then how do
So
you, if that's the case, how do
right.
you then shift over to an
Easy.
intentional system?
Your subconscious is a robot, and all you're doing is that you're programming it. You come into agreement with it, and then you begin the programming process. That's it. There's no emotion. I mean, you actually can use emotion, but by repetition or someone with authority speaking that over you, this repetitively over and over again consistently. Once you come into agreement with it and you speak it, then it begins to slowly but surely begin to reprogram the subconscious, plain and simple. Which is why, and this is something that's going to get me in trouble. Which is why I am very particular what I listen to,
Say more. Say more.
because when you hear those off the hook songs, and you're singing that song, you're and you are singing that song with emotion, that you are programming yourself. You are programming yourself, and you will have what you say. Death and life is in the power of the tongue, and you should eat the fruit thereof. So now I'm singing this, it's getting into my system. I'm singing along, and I'm gonna do that, and I'm a down then the ba, and you know what? Next thing you know, now you see why kids are acting the way they're acting. Now
Right.
you see why stuff is the way it is. It's because the words, this world system was created off of words.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to take authority over the ear gate and the eye gate. I don't listen, newsflash. It's been about 15 years since I had a TV in our bedroom. I don't have a TV in the
Oh
bedroom
yeah. Same. Same. Yeah.
because and I don't, because listen, I love music. I
Uh-huh.
mean, in my next life, I'm going to be a musician, a singer, a conductor. I love, but you know what? I've cut off 90% of all music, including
Mhm.
spiritual. I cut it off.
My spiritual too.
Well, because, oh God, this is really deep, but because a lot of spiritual music is in a dissident frequency. It's based off of A440 versus A432. So music is coming in and it's discombobulated. It's not on the proper frequency, and it can mess you up at the cellular level.
Get out of
So
here.
yeah. So I love to listen to A432 music, which is the
So,
proper frequency. That was
we
changed in the
can,
late, that was changed uh, like 1929, 1934. they gave out free instruments to everyone, all the universities, but they tuned the instruments to A440. Look it up. It's all over YouTube. Yeah.
And what is the difference? Is the frequency of the music is different
Yeah.
from 440 to 432?
Yes. I'm not
Wow.
going to say I'm not going to say much more about
Right.
it, but
Look it up.
what you can do is you can go to YouTube and look that information up. It is
Wow.
fascinating. Yeah.
Wow. So you're a speaker, but you also do you coach as well, or are
You
you
know
just
what? Okay, so here's where it gets crazy at. I love the coach, and I have been working with individuals, young individuals, older individuals, but I've never, locked it down like Sean's a coach. Here's your coaching program, and I do have a coaching program, but it's through like word of mouth. We're talking to a person, and yes, I'll coach you, but I'm about to go full go in this, and
yeah.
particularly with my men. And I mean, they need so much help. They need so much help. Listen to me. There is nothing more. Well, there's men have a lot of ambition. Okay, when men have have a drive. Women have dreams. Not the reverse. Men have dreams. Well, anyway, we and it it is it is very frustrating for us to know what we can do, to know what we want, but we can't articulate it, we can't express it, we can't manifest it. It's
Mm,
just like saying I want ice cream but I don't speak German, and I see ice cream everywhere, and this is what I want and I can't get to it. Okay,
mhm,
it's
mhm,
because they have to be unlocked. And one of the things that you was talking about earlier about men expressing or knowing how to release emotions.
mhm,
If people knew how powerful emotions are, your emotions manifest so much. But at
mhm.
a young age, since 3, 4, 5 years of age, when we fall on the ground and we cut ourselves, it's like,
Don't
why are you
cry.
crying?
Yeah.
Like you can't cry. You're a man. Suck it up. It is like it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so from that young age, we are taught not to share emotion.
Yeah.
And then if we do share emotion, then we're called emotional. It's like
Mm,
you can't share, you can't express yourself. And it's so tough. I'm telling you, it's so tough. I spoke to so many men who are husbands, who are single. They're like, man, if I show emotion with which a woman sees as weakness, they
mhm,
lose respect for me.
mm,
They would much rather see me lay on a train track and take a bullet or whatever than to show weakness in
right.
their terms. Although in the Bible, the actual shortest verse in the Bible is Jesus wept.
Right. Yeah.
But we can't weep. We can't cry.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we do cry. We but but we cry in a lot of unhealthy ways.
That's right.
We cry in addictions.
Mhm,
We cry with dying earlier than our spouse. We
mhm.
do cry, but we're not given the grace. I mean, check it out. If you think this is crazy, look at all of the memes. Michael Jordan crying, it's the crying Michael Jordan meme.
Oh.
Tyrese, the
Mhm.
the, the crying Tyrese meme. The guy, the head coach at Michigan, when that was last year, and he's crying, and they laugh at that. What
Yeah.
message are you sending to men who have emotions that God has given to them?
Mhm.
You can't express yourself, so then we express ourselves in other ways.
Do you think that do you look at it differently from black manhood to
Yeah,
white manhood or any
yeah,
other? You see it
yeah,
differently?
yes.
Mhm.
Especially with African American men.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, just now, every meme, the crying meme that I mentioned, how many of them are white?
Mhm.
None. They
Mm.
don't have to they don't have to live up to that as much. They do, but it's not as much.
Right.
We are not allowed to show weakness.
Yeah. And for, someone like me who has done a lot of things with women too, we relate to that as, oh boy, there's one more thing I got to do, right? There's
Mhm.
now I have to manage, like, there's this a narrative too. I just think of these two conversations that are both true, right? It's both true about Black men and their invulnerability, just blanket vulnerability, and also how Black women are trained to um, relate to what that looks like, right? And we could talk about historical things, slavery,
Yeah,
and how that
yeah.
plays out, when it's a matter of life or death. But we carry these things with us. And I don't think that we as women have learned how to bring out or create spaces where that vulnerability can exist. And I
You know
think,
what? Wow. And I mean, it's one of the first times I've ever heard someone, some, one of the first times I ever heard a woman bring it out like that.
mm,
And
mhm,
thank you, thank you for that,
mm,
uh, because it's important.
yeah.
It's as a man, you know, as a black man,
Mhm,
I fight all day. I don't have, I mean, I have one or two friends, but I fight. I fight, when I go out for bids, when I navigate, I fight. I fight to the from the moment I leave to when I get home. Navigating. If I see a police officer, I'm looking in my rearview mirror.
right.
I'm actually rehearsing what I'm going to say. Think about the number of of African American men who are killed. Now, think about from police officers and things like that, or the actual incarceration rate. Now, check it out. We've only had camera phones for like 10 to 12 years. Now, imagine what was going on for the last 100 years that we had no, Your Honor, he's lying. Okay, he's lying. Click. I mean,
Right.
you know,
Right.
we're just now catching up to this thing. But, I don't want to talk about problems without talking about solutions.
That's right.
And
That's right.
that's something that we have to move past our problems into possibilities. And one of the things that I've learned, I've been married for 25 years. Yeah, I've been married to the same woman for 25 years. Met her in the sixth grade. That's my queen, right? That is my queen. I adore her. I
Yeah.
Boy, if I could bring her up here because we work together, I could bring her up. She is amazing,
Oh.
powerful woman. Right. Um, is that and I'm from a single parent. So my mama raised me. So I mean, strong woman. Okay. I mean, she was like, if there was like a term strong black woman, it was mama. Because
Mhm,
she raised all six of us. She was a maid. She scrubbed floors and she came home and she raised us by herself. Okay.
mhm,
Mama, strong woman. And that kind of messed with my psyche a little bit.
mm,
But now what I've learned is that what we do, because she was from a single parent as well. And she was raised to be the strong, alpha female type. This is amazing. But we've learned and we've done a deep dive and the continual deep dive into masculine and feminine energy and
mhm,
the power of masculine and feminine energy and how to flow in masculine energy and how to flow in feminine energy. That's
mhm,
her. And how we work together and we produce because feminine energy, ladies, is so powerful. It is
mhm,
so, you literally have the ability to birth in the spirit and in the natural. Man,
mhm,
we'll dream all day. I got dreams, I got goals, but man, if she capsulate that bad boy, she'll birth it. She'll birth that business. She will birth it. Now you might have to raise it, but she will birth anything that she sets her heart to. So the
mhm,
enemy wants to disrupt that flow. But
mhm.
that feminine energy and that masculine energy coming together like the yin and the yang, you're unstoppable.
Yeah, yeah. I think that part of that feminine masculine energy thing, also it got distorted along the way in our journey, in our historical journey as well, because of women like your mom who said, I got to be masculine and feminine, and whatever those characteristics are that we hold as masculine and feminine, when there's one person, you got to be both. And
Yeah.
so I think that it takes something to be able to be intentional about, I'll say this to Black women in relationships with Black men. It really, really does take something to, our instinct is to say something, right? And I have had to learn about, my grandmother taught me, ooh, okay, when I was
Go
14,
ahead.
when I was 14 years old, I got caught stealing. The only reason I did not get murdered was because I was still in this is so cheesy. I was still in a birthday card for my mom in a candy bar. Like,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
what,
yeah,
so that
yeah.
was the only reason I just did not get
Right,
eviscerated.
right.
But when my grandmother picked me up, she had to pick me up. And I was just wanting her to say something, say you hate me, say it was a mistake, say you're, even that you're too pissed to speak. But she wouldn't give me any words because she knew her silence was way more lethal and painful and excruciating than, I can't believe this. Why did you do this? I'm so embarrassed. You embarrassed our family. We treat you better than this. You had more money. You didn't believe. You should have just asked. None of that. I would have welcomed that because at least there was some connection. But once that silence piece happens, and so that's when I'm like, oh, wait, silence is actually more powerful, right? And I have made that shift for myself. And a lot of people will hear, shut up, lady, know your place, don't speak. And what I'm saying is, please understand the tool that the power that your silence yields. People tell on themselves, all kinds of things happen. Sit in silence.
So, and I know that you've heard this before, and I'm saying this in love, but feminine energy gets a bad rap, especially with African American women. It gets a bad rap. It's like, I'm the head, I'm this and that. It can get that head moving. It gets a bad rap, period. But you have to understand the power that's in there, it's not recognized, it's not harnessed, it's not appreciated. Okay.
Mhm.
There's so much power in that. You got to, they only give us, and this is a man,
Mhm.
I'm a man.
Mhm.
I only have the illusion of having all the influence and control.
Mm.
It's just an illusion. There's been times when I wanted to do business with certain men. This happened more than once. He would not even talk to me till he met my wife. He said, I will not take a meeting with Mr. Harper. And then he saw my wife and he saw her influence. He
Mm.
saw her words because her words speak directly to my soul.
Mhm.
He saw her and he said, okay, we'll do business now. That's happened twice.
Mhm.
Don't ever underestimate that. That's on one side of the stick. The other side of the stick is that men, we have to step up and we have to flow in our true masculine energy.
Yeah.
That means that we have to be willing to say, hey, I'm going to take it for my queen.
Mhm.
First of all, you got to change her name. Her name is the queen, which makes you the king, but you got to treat her like a king. You got to set it up like a king. Set her up like a queen. You got
Yeah.
to speak. Listen. You got to speak to the feminine in the queen and bring it out of her.
Mhm.
That means that once every 2 weeks, my queen gets roses.
Mhm.
She gets a dozen roses. And and I can hear it in her tone. She's like, oh, get real hot. I'm like, yep. Because whatever you speak to, whatever you minister to will come out.
Mm.
So, ladies, if you speak to the boy, if you speak to the kid gonna come out.
Mhm.
But if you speak to
Oh.
the king is gonna come out. So
Oh my God, because we don't have time. I don't have another hour to talk about this, Shawn. I really don't. We don't have time left to go where this conversation really needs to go. And I want to raise up some nuances. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, right? And so I'm watching. So this is one of the more liberal places. Everybody knows
right,
this
right.
one of the more liberal places, but this conversation is not happening as much because
No.
people want to and feel the need to, for whatever reasons, good or bad, whatever it is, they feel frightened to have conversations about things like masculine energy, feminine energy, man, woman, because of the lifting up of folks who are identifying as non-binary, and their voices are being elevated, and it's all about making room for people's choices and how they, right? But what happens is that when you lift up one voice, it's important that we don't ignore or be afraid to acknowledge this whole configuration that has been in existence for a long time, right? And so there are people who are finally feeling like they can actively resist this binary man, woman, feminine, masculine thing, and live more in a fluid space. And I'm here for it because I believe in the gift and the power of choice and self-governance. That's what I believe. I also believe there's a whole system that has been in place for a long time.
Very long
And,
time.
and as flawed and sometimes broken as it is, it's still what so many of us identify as and believe in and are grounded in. So I just wanted to name it. I don't think we need to really do anything, but I also want to name and acknowledge folks who are not aligned with this particular thing we're speaking about. But for those who are longing for a real conversation about Black men and Black women in relationships and how to work and thrive together, this is invaluable and super important to me as a Black woman married to a Black man, and all the things that we're trying to figure out, even 7 years into our relationship, trying to figure out, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't say, or maybe he's still growing in this area, or maybe I could have more grace, but I'm really frustrated myself. And when do I get to get seen, right? So there's competition that I think that naturally comes to man and women dynamics. I think there are legacy and historical ways that we've learned to adapt to a toxic system to work together or not work together, right? So I wanted to name that, and I wanted to thank you, just for even ventilating this thing that just does not make it to. Okay, here we go. Okay,
Yes.
fine. Okay, well then let's do it then.
This is important. This
Uh-huh.
this this is so important. Well, first of all, people who do not adhere to my mindset, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It's I understand. Well, I am understanding more your philosophy, and there's parts that I agree to, and there's parts I don't agree with, and it's okay. This is just me. This is what has worked for me for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's and if I could would sit here and say that it's been gravy, it has not, because there are times when I, I want to step off the throne. Maybe I don't want to make the tough decision. Maybe this and this and that and that, or we make a decision together. Maybe there has been times where I've left her vulnerable and this and this and that. I mean, yeah. You know what? There's grace for that, and there's times where she's like, but that guy, I'm like, oh, hey, roll that back. You know what it's like? I'm gonna tell you what it's like. It's like role playing. It's like I am flowing in my masculine. You're flowing it. You are flowing in a feminine. It doesn't mean weak though,
Right.
because through that, the way she talks to me, I'm boy. Wow, when she talks to me the wrong way, there's
Mm-hmm.
resistance. When she talks to me another way, I will run through a wall,
Mm-hmm.
slay two dragons, and
Then take
bring
her
them
to
home.
lobster.
Pick it a red lobster. Nope. We gotta start. My base will be cheesecake. Like
Okay, okay, that's fair. That's
yeah,
fair.
that's my base.
That's
You
your
know,
version of McDonald's
yeah,
is
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's like In and Out. You know, what I mean, that's my base.
yeah.
But I have the responsibility. It's like, look, if she's lacking, that's your job. You got to handle that. If she slips, that's your job. You got to cover her. You got to protect her. You got to make sure she's good. You got to have so much money in the bank. You got to do this and that. That's your job, bruh. Step up. It's a
Mhm,
lot of pressure, but I love that type of pressure. I love it.
mhm.
And then to have, which is very important, to have an eternal perspective. Because see, I raised my son. My son's 22 years old, right? And he saw that. And his conversation is, Dad, I'm gonna find a wife. I'm gonna get married one day. I'm gonna, I don't want her to work, and this. No, she'll have her own company on the side and this, but I'll make sure everything is done. This 22-year-old man talking to me like that. Now, my father, he left.
Mhm,
His father left,
mhm.
and my grandfather,
Yeah.
they left. I have broken a generational line. I have changed a trajectory. That's what I'm up against, and that's what you're up against
Mm,
as a people.
yeah. Yeah. So I was going to ask you if you had a son, and do you feel like if you had to, this is might not even work as a ratio, but if you had to say how much of your son is you and what you believe, and how much of your son is picking up what like what most kids do, they become who their friends are and who they hang around with. How much of you do you see in your son? Does he cry? Does he have face?
Yes. Well, he does, but even with me,
Mhm.
I don't, I'm gonna give myself a C plus.
Hmm.
I I did not create that space for him to have a full spectrum of emotion.
Mm.
I did not. I did not because I
Mm.
was always driving, let's win, let's conquer, let's take over. I
Ah.
did not. And so I'm blessed. I'm blessed though to have a strong relationship. I love my son. And I'm
Mhm.
blessed to have a relationship with him to pray it through and do some damage control.
Yeah.
Just to go back and it's like, son, it's okay. It's
Mhm.
okay not to hit a home run every time. It's okay to fail. It's
Mhm.
okay. And to have those conversations with him to let him know it's okay and you're okay. You're not going to be operating from a deficit trying to become what you already are. I
Mhm.
approve of you and I adore you and I love you. If you did nothing else, son, daggone it, you my boy, and I love you. You're amazing. Let's go.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so many men don't get that.
So many men don't,
So many men don't get that.
or women, or women too.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
as it relates to this conversation, yeah, so many don't.
yeah.
Um, Let me. I just want to. This is it's kind of wild cardish. It might be
Okay,
rabbit hole.
okay, okay. Cause you're good. You're good. You're good.
So I want to know, given what you've said, what are your thoughts about a woman making not just a little bit more, but considerably more than her partner? How does that affect or her? How does that affect this idea of roles and king and queen and masculine and feminine? Do you think that there is some distortion that takes place or something that changes that ability or that to happen if a woman is making more than her husband? Or is it just about the intention that you set as a unit?
It's not supposed to, but it does. It
That's
does all the time. I mean, that going it does because one of our core responsibilities is to provide. you
mm-hmm,
know and women, not from a nurture perspective, from a nature perspective, they love security.
yeah.
They love to be secure. Now she has her own means of security.
Mm,
Okay. So now that could be, if you're not intentional and not focused on his side, it could be very emasculating.
mm,
And then from her perspective to him, it can be very emasculating.
mhm,
That hey, you fall short. I mean, let's like flip it. Imagine if we, as a husband, imagine if I just didn't have any need for anything that you bring to the table. I don't need your encouragement. I don't need you to cook for me. I don't need none of that. I don't need none of that from you at all. At some point, a little insecurity can, like, who's this woman cooking in my kitchen every day? You know what I'm saying? At some point, it could generate that because that's one of our core drivers. But
mm.
if you are intentional, you can easily navigate that. I've seen though, and this is just real talk, I've seen where a woman makes a certain amount of money and she still loves her husband, but she might not respect him as much.
Mm,
And I'm gonna tell you something right now. That is the the lifeblood of a man is respect. The
yeah.
life, the life force. We don't want love. All the little flowers and this and then. No, no. We want somebody to look us in the eye and say, I believe in you.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See that, gosh, and as we just think about like the whole picture, it'd be really interesting to have like a room of both black men and black women so that we can have these conversations across um understand, because sometimes when you do lose that respect or you do feel like this is not what I signed up for, but you don't really know, a lot of times because there's not a school to go to learn relationships, because we don't see a lot of role modeling, because of all these things, we're kind of making it up as we go, or learning from Real Housewives of, or learning from what we see. I think you froze, Shawn. Uh-oh. I'm gonna see if he'll come back. Oh, hold on, let's pause. All right. Okay. So we
Yeah.
are back. Had a little glitch. Listen, if you went through 2020 and you don't understand how to pivot and how to be flexible with technology and all this, you are not paying attention. So we're good. We're
No.
absolutely
Yeah.
good. I think one of the things where we left off, we were talking about, um, it'd be great to be in a space where you could hear these things. So I think some women
Yeah.
would hear me and some men would hear you and be able to not be defensive and listen more openly, because we have been trained, while we haven't been trained of the things to make the magic, we have been trained for ways to survive each other. I don't
Yeah.
think that we know how to. So, I always, in my trainings, I say, look at the word reaction and creation, same letters, and they both compel people to act, both reaction and creation. But look at the space, look at the magic that's available when you're in a creation space with your partner or when you're in a reaction space with your partner. And I just think that we're always in reaction or survival with moments of, oh, we got a new house. Okay, great. That feels good for a minute. And then reaction, survive. Did you do this? Did you do that? Oh, we're going on a vacation. And then you have a great moment and you get connected, and then you go back into the swirl of the reaction. But how do we make that shift from reaction space to really being a force of creation together, when you put both all your magic together, um, and build
Yeah.
something amazing like you and your wife have done?
Well, you have to be, which is a struggle in our culture. You have to be vulnerable. Okay.
Mm,
You have to speak from a place of vulnerability, uh, not a place from social ability, if that's ever a word. What I
mhm,
mean by that is that you have to just really say, this is what I truly feel. This is where I'm at. And you
Mm-hmm.
have to have that conversation, number one. And then number two, you have to have a larger perspective. This is so much bigger than you.
Yeah.
This is so much bigger than your promotion. This is so much bigger than you being that bad girl, that bad guy. When you driving your Maserati, you have a myopic mindset. This is a generational war that we're fighting. And when you expand that bad boy out, like, wait a second, okay, I have a part to play in this. Then you have to look at it from that perspective.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, yeah. You have to
Yeah.
have that generational, that actual generational perspective. I'll give you a really true example. Okay, I'm not, and I've never shared this before ever,
Mhm.
but our son was a really strong factor of keeping us together in the rough periods. Because I'm like, you know what, you know, I will be in your life,
Mhm.
and I had to give up a lot. I gave up a lot, but I
Mhm.
gained so much more because when we got through the challenging times, and now I'm looking back and like, man, that probably would have been the worst mistake of my life.
Mm.
I'm like, oh my God, girl, like,
Mhm.
man, and I'm looking at my boy, and I'm looking at him, and I'm having a conversation, and I'm looking him in the eye, and he's looking me in my eye, and I'm watching how he interacts, and I can see just a mental steel beam going right down the middle of his psyche and his soul. I mean, he is so grounded. He would not
Mhm.
have had that had I not been there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Well,
like,
I appreciate you saying that. When you talked about a lot of speakers talk about going to, and these are the conversations about going through. Because
right,
what you started out by saying, oh my God, my wife, that's my queen. She's like the air I breathe. Like that is my person. I'm clear about that. And I adore
mhm,
her. Like
mhm,
people see that and they look at their partner and they're like, okay, right? Because it's a leap. It's a leap for what they feel, right?
right,
But you also said, like, one of the most, I don't know, edifying or affirming experiences when Michelle Obama was like, there's like a 10-year period where I did not like this guy. Like,
right,
we struggled. And there's just something humanizing and affirming that, oh, that was the first time that it ever occurred to me that I could be married to somebody and not like them for a day or two or a week and not act on that not liking them because I attach if you don't like them, you don't love them, you don't respect. Whoa, those are different things, right? So we show up in spaces. So I'm really thankful that you did also share. Look, there were rough times, and those rough
whew,
times that we got through were based and grounded on the love that we hold for this human that we created together. And you created this person as one of the expressions of the way that you love each other. And
yeah,
so you have a manifestation of this love, and that same manifestation that you created from love is now holding the love together during times where you're like, oh no, are we sure we want to do that? Right. So I
yeah,
think it's important. And I'm just grateful that you said that so that we can be grounded in some good times and some bad times. And we're not thinking that we're broken or our relationship is broken because there are periods of time that
yeah,
feel like insurmountable.
yeah. Because failure is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's like you have to be able to fail in order to correct. When you break a bone, it comes back stronger. The way you learn how to ride a bike is that you kept falling off the bike. Get back on the bike. But if you never acknowledge your failures and your setbacks, then you can never have your comebacks. You just can't have it because you've not completed the cycle. Sometimes you go to, sometimes you grow through, sometimes you have to fall through, but you just got to keep moving in that, keep grinding and have some stick to itness and not allow the culture to dictate. Because I'm telling you, there's a lot of unhappy and angry and bitter people because
Right.
they jumped off the ship too soon.
Oh, oh, stop. Stop. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, real
Yeah.
talk. I mean, listen.
Why
I
you
know
looking at
there's gonna
me?
be some people there. They're like, I don't like it. You know what? God bless you. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. Because
it's
I'm
all good.
sitting here, I'm the host, and I'm sitting here. Why are you looking at me when you say that, Shawn? I
No,
know
I'm trying to look
that
at the
I'll be
camera. I'm trying to look at the
right,
camera.
right, right. Because I'm like, I keep my tennis shoes laced up, so it's a constant like. Because I put up with this, or I can do this by myself. I can do better by myself, or I can do, I can be mad at somebody for 2 weeks and not live with them. Like I could, so it's easy. And again, there's no manual. There's no way, for us to say, just like you can't describe to someone, you teach them how to ride a bike. You can't describe. You can just say, well, you just got to balance. And they say, well, describe it. You can't
Right.
describe what balance feels like. You just feel it. Like, how do you describe that? And so when you're in these situations and we're in these relationships where we don't have a reference point, we just kind of got to figure out how to balance, then there has to be that grace so that when we fall down, we get up and we're better for it, not bitter for it. And so
Oh my God. Listen. I first got married and we picked up this huge corner lot of a house. I'm in all ego, right? Big yard. And I'm like, I don't know how to maintain this yard. I got my neighbor, right? I got this old white guy out there at 6:30 in the morning. He got a cigar in his mouth. He got these edgers and this, and he has hoverboards everywhere. He has protractors and contract. I'm watching him like, man, this how you edge? Look at him edge that. Oh, look at that. I mean, I had to watch this guy for years. I had to, okay, that is, and then finally I got like alarm service for a while. I mean, I struggled. I fought the same thing with my son. I mean, I never had a father that raised me. I struggled. I had to fight, had to learn this fathering stuff and how to care for the yard and how the neighbors would get mad at you and the HOA would want to throw you out if your yard looks crap. You had to trim stuff and oh man, I forgot to take the trash out again. And just like I
so
had
real.
to fumble through this stuff, man. And it was painful, but no
Yeah,
pain, no gain.
that's right. That's right. Well, I just as we are leaving and wrapping up for today, I just want folks to know that there's going to be a part two at some point down the line. So
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
it has to happen. The second thing that I wanted to do, I just wanted to acknowledge who you are in the world, how you move in the world, and the gift and blessing it is to have someone who has that perspective that is so clear and so raw and thoughtful and honest, but just real, just real, just sharing and connecting with folks to humanize
Mhm.
us and our experiences. So that's the other thing that I wanted to say. And where do we find you? What are you doing next? And yeah, that's the next question.
Yeah. So what am I doing next is I'm moving into the coaching space.
Okay.
There are so many men who just need to be challenged. They need to be held accountable. They need to be encouraged. They need to be challenged. There's so many men out there. And I believe that I'm the one that can do it, could do my part, to just say, hey, this is how we navigate things. Okay.
Yeah.
I still speak. I do tons of training and I do corporate speaking. And I even speak with youth a lot. I love speaking with youth and teenagers and things like that. My website is Shawn Harper Wins. shawnharperwins.com. You can go to that website. You can look it up. Send me some emails, opinions, hate mail. I don't care. Information's on there. And you know what? If you go to Shawn Harper, if you go to www.shawnharper.co, you can get a free copy of my book. I have about 2 or 3 books out there. And I will give you a free digital copy of The Winner's Edge. And it's basically laws that I've learned to
Woo!
just navigate life. There's rules and there's laws. Okay. I break rules. I never break laws. You break laws, laws will break you. They've been here since the foundation of the world, right? So I
Uh-huh.
learned how to live my life off of laws. And that's a free gift because I've learned, because my mom taught me, it doesn't come to you if it can't get through you. So I learned
Mm.
to just sow seed. It's a seed. So yeah.
All right.
And the next time, and the next time I'm asked to come on, listen, you have to allow me to bring the queen. You have to.
Please, 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 please. I would love that. I would just, uh-oh. Is she
Well, no,
there?
but
Oh, okay.
she must be on a conference call because her office is right downstairs, but she's not picking up right now, so she must be busy. But yeah,
Well,
I
that's all reason. That's all. What is her name? What is the queen's name?
her name is Philana.
Say it again. Hush.
Philana.
Philana.
Mhm.
Okay.
Uh,
All right.
yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. I think I did. Is that I graduated last in my class in academics, and she was the valedictorian, same year,
Oh,
same class.
come on. Come on, since the sixth grade. I cannot. I got to have that whole, that is actually what the whole thing will be about. You know what? I will be reaching out to you again to make sure, even if we schedule it for next month, we got to have the
Yeah.
conversation.
Okay, it's
All
done.
right. Shawn, thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And I will see you soon.
All right, be blessed.